Hello everyone and welcome to this week's edition of the Thursday Nighter. I'm a man down this week as Hayden's not here. He's exploring the Emerald Isle. He's in Ireland with his girlfriend, I think, so instead of me sat here talking to myself, and that wouldn't be very entertaining for anyone, would it, I suppose. So he's back in Cockney Corner. I've got Elliot back with me. But I've got some reinforcements as well. We've got our very first Welsh representative with us, Crispin. If you'd like to introduce yourself, mate, let us know.
Yeah,
a bit of your football supporting history.
I'm Crispin. I'm from Swansea, so I wouldn't support anyone else except for Swansea. So yeah, that's my supporting history. That's all I've always supported and all I always will.
There we go. I've also got yet another Tom with me, just to make things confusing again.
Just call me Saunders, it'll be fine.
Yeah, Mr. Saunders. Took us through, your footballing past.
Yep, my name's Tom Saunders. I'm from Essex, which obviously means I support Man United. My granddad is from Salford, so that is my little...
That's your little link.
Well, I say little, it's near Manchester. So,
it's a big link.
It's alright.
Right, okay. I think this week there is only one place to start. And can I just say again, I'm not enough of you loyal fans are actually following us on Twitter yet. Get on there at Thursday Footy. You know what to do. Hashtag the Thursday Night. Get involved. Everybody loves a bit of that, don't they? A bit of Twitter nowadays. That's the way forward. But only one place to start. As I said before, it's got to be a bit of Pep Guardiola, I think. So what do we think, boys? What's this biggest challenge at Manchester City? I'll start with you, Crispin.
Well, I don't know. Every club I've ever seen him in, there's always been a lot of money to invest. And he's come into a decent squad that's not got a lot of playing around to do, sort of tactics. So yeah, tactically he's aware, but he's always gifted with that squad.
Yeah,
I mean, he's got cash and he's got a decent enough squad to start with. So
exactly.
I think he's going to do really well, to be honest.
Yeah, I can't see any reason why
he just seems to whatever club he touches, he turns to trophies. To be honest, so.
I think Man City's the perfect job for him, but that later on down the line, I think it would be to show his real worth as a manager. He should join a club that he needs to actually buy players to make them better. Because as you said, City have got the players already. So.
Well, I saw there was an interview with Graham Hunter on TalkSport a while back, and he was talking about the fact that Pep had stated, and how much truth there is in this, you don't know, that he wanted to manage Man United. That'd be a challenge, but obviously the bigger challenge again was after that. He said he wanted to get Brazil back on top of like world, international football. So, that'd be a big job for him, wouldn't it?
It's a big leap going to international football, though.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
a big difference. You've got to deal with all the egos from a whole nation. I think that's a difficult thing to do, especially in Brazil, because there's a lot of egos in that side.
Well, and every World Cup they turn up to, they're expected to win, aren't they?
Exactly.
Yeah, there's not really. Second best isn't good enough in Brazil. That's why they have such a big turnover on managers.
I remember a story from, I don't know whether it was, I think it might have been the 2010 World Cup, and they got spat at apparently by the supporters when they got off the plane on the way home.
I'm not surprised at all.
It's the England players might moan that there's too much expectation on their shoulders when it comes from England fans, but they've got nothing in comparison to Brazil by all accounts.
Yeah.
With regards to going back to the Man City job with Pep, do we think he's got the setup there with, obviously there's some ex-Barcelona board members and stuff and staff and directors and stuff like that there. I think that obviously helped the situation, helped pave the way for him to be able to join Manchester City. In terms of Premier League, I don't think he's got. I think he's obviously going to bring players in. He wants to stamp his authority on it, and make it his side. But he hasn't got a great deal to do in the Premier League because, if we're entirely honest, I don't think the quality in the Premier League is that fantastic at the moment. I don't think there's anyone else out there who's particularly making giant strides towards staking a claim for any sort of domination or at least a fight with Man City over the next
who's challenging
years.
Really? I can't remember the last time that there was a weekend of football and every top four club won. I'm talking, you got your Arsenal, your Man United, your Man City, your Chelsea. When was the last time they all won on the same weekend to compete with each other?
It also shows in how many clubs are actually in the fight for Champions League places, European places. It all goes down all the way to 9th or 10th sometimes. There are six teams that could get up to get the second or third. I
think I saw stats saying Arsenal, for instance, have got 9 points from available 21. So considering what was it, last week or the week before they were top of the league. That's a bit of a...
It's a very high jump, isn't it?
Well, there was a rumour, it was a little while ago now, but obviously there's 4 places, isn't there, for the Champions League in England?
Yeah.
And the recent performances in the Champions League for English clubs, they're thinking about reducing it to 3. And
Yeah,
one, is it to Spain or Italy or something?
I've seen...
Country?
Yeah, the coefficient basically, isn't it, is how it works. I think we're safe for another couple of years, but I don't think we could go much longer, without getting a side to at least the semi-finals. And I think
because obviously got United who didn't make the group get out of the groups.
Yeah, the amount of times that Liverpool didn't, United haven't. City struggled the first, I think, 3 years in a row.
Well, yeah, exactly. They haven't done it.
This
This is the first time. This is the furthest they've been, I think. So.
It's embarrassing, really. Every time you see a Champions League final, there's a Spanish side, if not both of them, and there's one from Italy or Germany who are just setting.
The Italians have sort of had a bit of a renaissance, haven't they, over recent years? You think, I know Italian football isn't necessarily, it still isn't necessarily out there with the best in the world, but I don't think they've gone backwards at all in recent years. You think getting Juventus to that final, they've got Juventus in particular, I think, have got good quality there, obviously with Pogba and players like that. He's a player I see City have instantly been linked with since Guardiola's announcement.
Yeah, that Messi.
Do you think there is a bit of work to be done with regards to maybe replacing some of the aging players at City? I think Touré probably. I think that's a big one for them. I don't know that Yaya Touré is. He's obviously not a long term.
No, they've got to look for some replacement. But how would you replace Touré in his prime? Who would you replace him with?
I just agree with that wholeheartedly. But I suppose you say that anyway, don't you?
Yeah.
Is Pogba not already made replacement?
I was about to say, Pogba just seems to be the ideal for me.
To me, that seems like the only option, the only person that could fill those boots.
Yeah.
I've had this discussion before. Are we missing box-to-box midfielders nowadays? Centre midfielders. Is that something that's gone out of the game?
The thing I've noticed constantly is you've got those box-to-box midfielders and they're running straight for defenders. Now they're going around. There's no running straight, if you know what I mean. There's no going straight for a defender because there is that risk of running injury or risk of a hard tackle. It doesn't work the same way it used to. So you've got.
Do you think that
midfielders shying away
is to do with perhaps? Hold on, ask you about this. Do you think like possession football because of that there's less emphasis on risk-taking players losing the ball?
Well, I think in the Premier League overall this year, I'm a United fan, so I'll use them as an example. I've been disappointed with how we've been playing in terms of sideways passing, playing the easy option. I mean, David De Gea has made touches than any other player in United games. So I think also like common formations now are 5-2-3-1 instead of a 5-4-1. So you have the 2 holding midfielders, which means that there's not, as you said, the box-to-box midfielder is not really
it's not a thing.
Not a position anymore. I don't think. Yeah.
The only player I think I see doing that, and I think he'll probably do that less and less, is at Tottenham with Dele Alli. I think he seems to be run around a lot, in terms of getting up and down, but then. In recent weeks, again, he seems to have been pushed sort of off Harry Kane almost. So.
Yeah.
I was going to say he's been very attacking. I mean, he's
getting
the goals.
He's
getting goals and the assists, and he's got the stats to back it up.
Very
so.
impressive. But,
they're playing good football, Spurs, at the moment. Do Arsenal need to worry then, in terms of this big drop from first to fourth or whatever?
It's still tight, isn't it? Let's be honest. Leicester, there's always.
That game is going to be huge, isn't it, between City and Leicester?
I mean, you're always going to have doubts whether Leicester can actually see it through.
Yeah,
you'd love them to. And,
okay, so if we assume then though that Leicester, I know it's a big assumption, but if we assume that Leicester get a result against City and they manage to pull off a win, that's 6 points. Then they're cleared. We're in the middle of February then.
Yeah.
Surely doubts have to start being. I know they have to start falling away a little bit. Then surely, we're quite like depthy in terms of where we are in the season.
I think you just got to forget about the individual players in Leicester City at the moment and just think their team works. You got to forget about Aguero is a world class player. Like for example, Kante, not exactly world renowned, but he's been a great player this year.
Exactly.
I agree with that.
So
they've just held their own against. these stars, haven't they? Whereas other teams might shy away and just sort of go, oh Jesus Christ, it's Yaya Toure just steaming in front of you. They're just fearless.
It just must be an extreme team bond there. They just link up so well. It's so well formed. It's just you look at other clubs. You look at Man United. You look at Man City. You look at Chelsea. You've all got those individual players in there. You've got those individuals, and those are the ones that people are looking for you to close down, take possession. With Leicester, where would you start? The only person you'd be looking, the only two you'd be looking at per se would be Vardy and Mahrez. But the rest of the link-up play obviously works because those two players, you can't put their success down to two players. It's not possible.
And then you look at how solid their centre-back pairing is. Robert Huth and Wes Morgan. I mean, you're not going to get a more intimidating pairing than that.
No.
So, I think they're pretty solid all the way through.
There's been a bit of a renaissance for Robert Huth as well, hasn't there? Where you consider, he was struggling to get a game at Stoke, and now he's, he's part of a pretty successful centre half pairing. It'd be remiss whilst you're here, Crispin, not to talk about Swansea.
Yeah.
What's going on at Swansea? Where do you see the season ending up for you?
I've got hope. I've always got hope that we're not going to go down, but there's always that niggle in the back of your head that it is a fight now. Before we could always say, it's a possibility, but it's not going to happen. But it is a possibility, and it could genuinely happen. We're not picking up points where we should have. West Brom's a key example of that. We've played, I would have said, considerably better football than them for 92 minutes.
Do you think you threw that game away then in a little bit?
I think that was very poor defending towards the end. I think once we had that goal, it's not a huge lead, but instead of attacking, we should have maybe taken the lead from Chelsea's, but park the bus and just keep that. Yeah. Because those 3 points, when you're in that battle, and you've got teams coming up behind you, you've got Newcastle, Sunderland, Norwich, Bournemouth, they're all not looking too bad, and they all look like they've got a bit of fight in them.
In that vein, lots of clubs spent, at the bottom half of the table, lots of clubs spent big money, didn't they, this time around? Villa, of course, didn't. Villa are down. Are we saying Villa are down?
I think they've nailed their coffin, haven't they?
I'm trying to think of something, but obviously you've got Michael Richards saying we'll fight to the end, but that's just what he's got to say, isn't it?
Well, you can't not say that, can you? We've thrown the towel in. Why didn't they spend money? Is it a case that nobody wanted to join them, or are the owners just not putting the money up?
Pretty sure, didn't Martin O'Neill leave because the owners were playing up? And that was when they got into Europe, didn't they? You had the likes of Bonhor and big old John Carew.
John Carew.
The legend.
The legend that is John Carew. Norwegian Messi.
But I think chairmans have a massive part to play, but in whether or not a side goes up or down and stuff like that. Obviously they appoint managers, but you have to invest either in a youth squad that's decent or a couple of players that are going to carry you out of trouble. They haven't done it.
There's
also you get how much did they get for Benteke?
32.5.
How many obviously Mahrez. Obviously, everyone's going to bring up Mahrez, but how many Mahrezes or players just a little bit off him are there in the world, and you just don't invest.
You've still got to find them, haven't you? And the other thing is that
that's the whole point. But you're a Premier League side; you've got the resources to find.
Yeah, this is a question I'm asking though. Is the owner now bored because there's a lot of chat about him trying to get rid of the club, but he obviously wants a decent return for his investment. Is there a case now that he's disinterested? So he's like, well, why am I going to pump any more money in? A Villa doomed, in a sense, because this could be perpetual motion for them in terms of relegation, couldn't it? You could see that sort of what happened to Leeds a while back happening to Villa.
I have, without a doubt, if they go down, I don't have a feeling that they won't be back up the next season. They'll be down there for a while, and it could even get worse. They could drop down through the leagues, which has been seen before.
Wigan and Blackpool both in League One, I think that's right. And obviously Portsmouth was other reasons, but they're massive. In mid-table. Well, I think they're mid-table League Two. They might be a bit higher, but yeah. It's happened, especially in the last few years, to quite a few clubs. So it's definitely possible. Championship's a hard league to get out of as well.
Yeah, it is. I've discussed this a few times before. You look at the Championship, and it's all got, recent Premier League quality in it.
It's a good league, yeah.
Throughout that league,
it's always wide open. You could never. It's the worst league to bet on. Isn't it?
You look at the beginning of the season. Whoever's favourite, just seems to either fall away or just not even be in the running in the first place. It's so difficult to predict because I think all of the sides are probably so level in terms of what they've got in quality that you can pick a name out of a hat in terms of who's going to go up and who's going to suffer.
Yeah, I mean, you compare the second divisions to other countries as well. I think it's probably the best. I mean, not that I watch that much like Spanish second division, but just look at the players.
I think in terms of like the size of clubs there, you've got like your Nottingham Forest, your Leeds. You've got big clubs there, haven't you?
Exactly.
With huge support. So, I'm not sure you've got a great deal of that elsewhere in Europe. We've been touching on Dimitri Payet all season, and there's a running joke that I'm a little bit in love with the man. He reminds me of, people laugh at me when I say this, but he got a touch of the Zidanes about him. In the same vein, you got Riyad Mahrez doing wonderful things at Leicester City and skinning people for fun, pulling out the showboat reel like week in, week out. Have we got to a stage in the Premier League where players like that are a bit of a rarity?
Well, you've got two, haven't you, in the whole of the league at the moment, out of, how many, what is it, a 22-man squad that you're allowed with youth?
Are we saying that those two are the only two? Like, Aguero doesn't come, you're not including him on that list?
If he could stay fit, I'd include him, but he can't stay fit and he's injured.
Okay,
consistently.
But I mean, in terms of just being a flair player,
he's in there.
Yeah,
there's not many. I'd say you could count them on.
I could just remember a generation, especially from like myself growing up. Every side had, as a kid, you were inspired by the leaders, like your John Terrys, your Roy Keanes, your Tony Adams, those sort of players. But at the same time, you had your Gianfranco Zolas, your Dennis Bergkamp, your Eric Cantonas, these people who would try something different, who would have the ability to walk past players and do a crazy pass that you've never seen before, or a turn that
So the risk takers is the one it's the ones that'll take the risk.
They're the
willing
ones
to do those things mid-park where others probably wouldn't. Ronaldo at United, that was a big example for me. I was a closet United fan when I was younger, only because Swans weren't in the Premier League and you had to have that big club. And Ronaldo was exciting. He was exciting to watch, the plays, the way he played.
People get you off your feet, sort of thing.
I think you're right. Every club used to have that one player that was like that, and I think that's probably something that the Premier League's lacking at the moment.
I always think back to the idea of kids in a playground and stuff. I'm Ronaldo today, I'm Messi or whatever. That sort of, that's how it probably is today. But back when I was a kid, there were a whole swathe of players you could choose from. And you look at them now, and you just think to yourself, I'm not in the Premier League. I'm not entirely sure where all the next crop of flair players are coming from.
Martial on his day, he's a flair player, to be honest.
Yeah,
I think he's a big talent, and he's really young, isn't he?
Yeah.
So, the way he came into the league as well, scoring straight away.
Yeah, he's definitely confident. That's one thing. I think younger players do suffer with, they get nervous and it kind of they crawl into a hole, especially somewhere like Old Trafford, home debut. I think didn't he score against Liverpool?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
you can't write a debut much better than that.
Hello, I'm here.
It was all the criticism around his signing as well, because the fee that was paid for him and
his age.
At the end of the day, it's not his fault. You've got to feel a bit sorry for him.
How many times has that happened? You had Torres when he went to Chelsea, that the wage was so high, the fee was so high that
the weight of expectation sort of.
Yeah, I think obviously he's proven that he can play under pressure, and that's a very good thing to look forward to for the future.
Yeah, I think as well, like on the wings, especially in the Premier League now, you talk about flair players. I think it's more pace related now, not necessarily skills. Yeah. It's just like Walcott, for example, literally only has pace. He'll try and get around a player. Oxlade-Chamberlain. I think Arsenal altogether on the wings is pace. It's not
pace and power.
You could say. I mean, would you say actually going back to flair players like Ozil? Because I think he doesn't really do any. It's more passing for Ozil. Isn't it? I don't know. Is that flair?
Ozil does the football that no one watches. He does the part it's not the interesting football, but it's the necessary football. Yeah. Same thing that Leon Britton's done for years. He's kept possession.
Brought into the
talent. Really? Did you really just compare?
You could say that. But do you remember? There was the season where he was only bettered by Xavi, wasn't he? His pass completion was only bettered by Xavi.
Let's say all of the European top leagues. Ozil's passes are forward and Britain's are sidewards.
Yeah,
but he keeps the ball.
But he keeps the ball, and he was holding his own against players like Peter Crouch, who are admittedly at least 3 times the height of him. He's a small guy. I've seen him in person, and you do think, is he come from Middle Earth now or something? But obviously, height doesn't really matter.
From Middle Earth. Oh dear, you can't say that about poor Leon.
No, I love
You're
Leon.
a Swansea fan.
Oh, no, he's a Swansea fan. He's ripping one of his stalls, one of the club stalls. Where were we? That's sort of thrown me off a little bit. Flair players. Yeah, I suppose we better wrap that up because I think I've run out of things to say about him because I just don't think we've got many to talk about.
Kane?
What, Flair?
Kane?
Nah, he scores goals.
I think we were talking about Sanchez, and one thing I was going to say about Alexis Sanchez is he's great to watch.
Yeah.
But isn't he, again, more pace and power than...
Yeah, I definitely
like trickery. I know he does. I don't get me wrong. He just score amazing goals.
Yeah.
I'd just say that performance against Liverpool last season at the Emirates, where he just took them apart, was just incredible.
Yeah, he did similar
incredible
things.
to watch, and that's coming from a West Ham fan. Like I hate Liverpool and Arsenal as much as the next person, but man, that was a good game to watch.
Yeah, he did.
Either way, I was going to be happy because one of them was going to get stuffed.
Did you have Alexis Sanchez in your fantasy football?
Yeah, mate.
I thought you might do.
And Ozil.
That's what kept you happy then. All right, John Terry leaving Chelsea. Where do we stand on this?
Good riddance.
All right, okay. Let's not. If you don't like John Terry as the person, let's talk about John Terry the player. Then.
Okay, I'll be completely honest. Don't like him at all.
No.
But as a player, I've got a lot of respect for him. Obviously, never liked him because I've been a United fan all my life, and he's been with Chelsea all his career. So, but yeah, he's obviously as an England fan, obviously as well. He's wears his heart. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He goes out there. He's probably the last old school English defender we have, like a Terry Butcher kind of player. But I was going to say he's lost his legs, but he's never really had pace. So I think that's kind of been to his advantage because his positioning's always been so good. But I think his time is. Was he 35? I think his time. He wants to leave gracefully, doesn't he? So he wants to have a season where he.
Do you think he wants to leave, or do you think he just got that statement out, sort of to put Chelsea under pressure to offer him a contract?
Good question. I have no idea, but I think he wants to leave on good terms and have his last season to be a good one. Because obviously Lampard, I think he could have had another one.
Yeah, certainly, yeah.
But
he showed that he could have had another.
At City, yeah, exactly.
Okay, in that respect, I know it's a completely different club, but Liverpool will probably regret not still having Steven Gerrard at the club in some capacity, will they not? Not necessarily as a player, but maybe as part of the coaching staff.
Sort of role. But does that always work? That's the problem.
Not necessarily, but I think there are certain players that transcend. Yeah. I don't think you do it with everyone, do you? When it's sacked Moyes and they ended up having skulls, but and they had nearly all of the class of '92 on the bench. I'm not sure that's a particularly good idea, but there aren't many football clubs where you're going to get that many stalls. If you look at Chelsea, they probably could have afforded to give John Terry some sort of. Maybe some sort of player coaching role or something, even if he's just a defensive coach for them. Something along those lines, do you think?
I just think, in regards to Gerrard, that it's just. The problem is that as soon as anything sort of goes badly, then camera's always going to point to him.
Yeah.
And it's always going to be like, oh, what does he actually think? What's going through his
penny
mind?
for his thoughts.
Would he do anything? It's the same thing with the United job.
Yeah, Alex Ferguson
every time, if anything goes right, then you're going to be compared to Ferguson, and if anything goes wrong, then there's going to be Ferguson in the papers and everything like that, and he's going to be asked for quotes. It's just ridiculous.
Comparison to Moyes, because that's all I've seen all season. Louis van Gaal compared to Moyes.
Yeah,
it's just.
You can't win, you can't really lose.
Man, to be honest, I got sick of him when he was in the Premier League, and now I'm sick of him now he's out.
All right, that seems fair enough. Okay. Elliot's had a say on that. All right, okay, let's move on from that, because obviously that's not a subject that Elliot wants to approach. You feeling bad, mate? Was it a big night last night?
Yeah.
Where'd you go? What'd you do?
Social night, innit? Toga night.
Toga night, was it?
Toga night, yeah.
Was it? I can just imagine you wrapped up in a cloth. I'm
Keep that for the bedroom,
Well,
mate.
we've all got that picture in our head.
Yeah, sorry. Let's talk about some of the goals that were scored midweek.
No, let's think of him wrapped in a cloth.
No, I really don't want to. I've had enough of that
You
now.
already have, mate. You already said it.
Yeah, I know. I put that mental picture. Luckily, nobody really knows you. So anyone
Cheers,
listening,
mate.
anyone listening to this
Well,
won't have the mental picture, will they? That we have.
Come on, then, Jamie Vardy.
Yeah, let's talk about the goals. Vardy's goal was pretty good, wasn't it?
It's got to be.
I didn't see it that night, and as soon as like Sky Sports was on the TV somewhere, and I stopped and just went, "Wow."
You said something else, didn't you?
It's a good goal.
Right, was it a volley? Was it a half volley? Was it neither? What we defining that strike as?
I'd classify it as a volley.
As a volley,
But
yeah?
it's an in-movement volley, because if you watch him, he's not stopping the play; he's continuing his run.
Yeah.
So, but then, yeah,
It's a controversial one. Lots of people I see on Twitter have been arguing about whether it's a volley, it's a half volley, whether it's neither.
I don't think it really matters.
I don't think it really.
It's
I thought it was just good to watch.
when it hit the back of the net, that's all that matters.
goal.
isn't it?
I've got another controversial point of view, and I'll be shouted down because of my club allegiances. I thought Martial's goal was better.
Yeah, so do I. But I support United as well, so I bet it's just. I think you mean the build-up and everything.
Yeah, well, the build up, and also
Build-up
I think
play,
I
yeah.
think you think you look at the finish. It wasn't an easy finish.
No.
It was on the edge of the box, like on the left-hand side of the edge of the box. He's had to bend that in the top corner. We're talking Jack Butland in goal
Yeah,
as well.
I think
He's had
also
a great season.
So hard person to play.
the way you look at the way United have been playing this season, that was really good build-up from us,
I think
especially for this.
I think
year.
that's the best goal United have scored this year.
But in terms of the strike, obviously Vardy's is better.
It's
but it's a
more
long
memorable,
ball. It's
yeah.
a long ball though, so yeah. I don't know. They're very close. It'll be interesting to see which one wins, because I think they'll be top two, won't they, for goal of the month?
Dele Alli.
Dele Alli.
surely.
Was that
Dele
January
Alli.
or February though? I'm not sure about the Dele
No,
Alli.
that was only about. That wasn't this week's game. With this game week, it was last game week, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So that would have been two. Yeah, no, you're right. That would have been January.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Just thinking that was an incredible goal from
Yeah.
Dele
Yeah, I
Alli.
forgot about that
We've been
one.
blessed in the last couple of having slagged off the Premier League for not having enough players. We have been blessed
Yeah.
with some fantastic goals in recent weeks.
And two of those were English, so obviously.
Because who assisted that goal as well? Who brought the assist for that?
For Vardy's goal,
For Dele Alli's.
I've no idea. All I can remember is his touch over the
That was
top
a
and then his
fantastic
swivel and
cross.
finish. I thought it was incredible. He's excited me actually, Dele Alli, to have done what he's done in such a short space of time. I think he's been pretty. I saw a stat that he's now got one more goal in the Premier League in the short time he's been there than Jack Wilshere has in his entire time in the Premier League.
I couldn't believe how many goals Jack Wilshere had scored. It's only like 6, isn't it, for
Yeah,
Arsenal?
yeah.
I mean, I know he has had a lot of injuries, but yeah, I was surprised with that. But yeah, considering Dele Alli, what was he famous for initially? Just that waving thing from Vine.
Yeah.
And now he's obviously...
Well, I think a lot of
he's
people
guaranteed to be in the
wouldn't have thought
England squad for the next
he'd be
next
starting
game.
11 at the start
He's
of
got
the
to be
season.
starting at 11 now,
Yeah,
hasn't he?
There's no way you can not include him.
Definitely.
Just to return to John Terry again, I know you probably don't want to. Where's he going? Is he going to China? Do you think he's going to follow in Ramirez's footsteps, or
China or the States, surely.
China?
Well, he could do what Ashley Cole did. He could end up in Italy.
Yeah, you go.
Because Italy does have potential to sort of seem a bit like the MLS. With some of the teams,
It's slow, isn't it? It's slower.
It is a lot less paced. But I
Wouldn't
suppose-
surprise me if he ends up at New York with Lampard, either.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No,
That's
true.
not a bad shape, that actually.
Or LA Galaxy with Cole. You know, he's got few players that obviously through the Chelsea links, so he could go to China. I mean, I'm been very surprised with the amount of players that have gone to China. To be fair, like with Jackson Martinez.
Is it the new MLS then? Do you think?
It's just money that's there, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, that was all it was with America, though, wasn't it? Initially, I don't.
Yeah, that's
Culturally, it's a bigger challenge, I suppose. China.
Yeah.
Do you see John Terry learning the lingo?
No, probably not. No.
Well, he'd know how to order his local Chinese, wouldn't he?
Well, maybe.
He strikes me as the kind of bloke that would.
Not
very adaptable.
Often seen coming out of a Chinese takeaway. Is that what we were saying about John?
Don't say "oh, John." No.
Sorry. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
About John Terry. He's distinctly unpopular in here, isn't he? I can understand why. He's had plenty of controversy in his career, hasn't he? So.
Yeah.
And especially with the racism stuff and all of that chat. So yeah, he's not.
It's weird, all that, and at the same time, I still think he's, in my lifetime, probably top five English centre backs.
Well, I would probably go as far to say he's not necessarily in my lifetime, but in the last decade, he's probably up there for the top 5 centre halves full stop.
Yeah.
Think of it, obviously him and Rio are the main two. Obviously, the trouble with Rio was this is why I think Terry should leave Chelsea now. Ferdinand had a year at QPR and a year at United where he was.
The difference
really
between
bad.
the difference between the two, as I wanted to talk about this before, was I thought, like you said, John Terry's never had to rely on his pace. I think Rio Ferdinand got himself out of trouble a lot of the time because he was quick, and then once he'd lost that pace, and he couldn't get himself out of the trouble, he sort of
His bad positioning was exposed.
Yeah, he sort of got exposed. But and then you got with Rio Ferdinand, you got the fact that he was a much better ball player than John Terry, perhaps. So.
Yeah, that's why I think that for England they complement each other perfectly because they both had strengths and weaknesses. But
you could you could swap John Terry and Vidic, and they were pretty much the same player.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right, I think we're done, aren't we? Should we wrap it up?
In a cloth.
Not in a cloth. No, I don't want to wrap it up in a cloth.
Wrap Elliot up.
Stop reminding me of that. Yeah, right, that'll do. I'm going to cut us off here. Thanks for listening, guys, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Thursday Footy. See you later. See you next week.